and that they're cold. And I thank the gentleman from Rhode Island for being here tonight.
I thank the gentlelady, and I want to begin by thanking my great friend, the gentlelady from Connecticut, for her extraordinary work and for her incredible passion on this very, very important issue, and for giving me an opportunity to speak on this serious issue tonight. You have been, Madam Speaker, the gentlelady from Connecticut has been a great champion for policies that fight hunger and protect a crucial safety net for our nation's most vulnerable children and families. Now, I am very proud to stand with her tonight against these devastating cuts to the SNAP program. You don't end hunger by cutting nutrition programs. You make it worse. We should be working together to find ways to end hunger in America. We can do that. This is the greatest country on earth. We should be certain that no man, woman, or child in this country goes hungry. Unfortunately, some of my colleagues filed a Farm Bill conference report that would be absolutely devastating to families struggling to get by. If I can, for just a moment, I'd like to walk through some of the cuts to nutrition programs being proposed as part of this bill. In states like mine with cold winters, many working families already struggling to buy food face the additional burden of expensive monthly utility bills to heat their homes. Faced with this reality, some parents are forced to decide what's more important for their child, a good nutritious meal or a warm home. And for decades now, the SNAP program has worked to provide additional benefits to struggling families facing both food insecurity and high heating or housing costs. For example, in my home state of Rhode Island, individuals who receive even nominal assistance through the Low-Income Home Energy Assistance Program, or LIHEAP, are also eligible for additional assistance under SNAP. This policy, often called Heat and Eat, makes sense for two reasons. First, this kind of policy helps prevent some of our most vulnerable families from having to face the difficult choice between a warm home and a good meal. Let's not forget, these families are living in the worst kind of poverty, the poorest and most needy members of our community. And they very often face the real threat of hunger and a freezing home. And the second reason this program is important is because it makes the programs, both programs, more efficient and streamlines the application process. Without this policy, the same family would be forced to navigate a maze of bureaucracies to access resources in a time of tremendous need. Instead, under this policy, struggling families can access critical resources more easily and focus on the things that matter, like getting back on their feet or finding work. In a time of limited federal resources for the poor, Heat and Eat helps. It helps states coordinate assistance programs and leverages funding from SNAP and LIHEAP so no family is faced with that impossible choice. Now, many of my friends on the other side of the aisle have called this a loophole, but it's not a loophole. This is a policy, an effective policy, designed to address a real problem for families facing especially hard times. The bill and the conference report that was filed tonight cuts and undermines states' efforts to coordinate food and heating assistance and will make the lives of our neediest families even more difficult. And I know many of my colleagues will think this is an easy pill to swallow. Why? Because it places the burden of further reductions to nutrition programs on the backs of a smaller group of individuals in a limited number of states. Only 16 states administer Heat and Eat programs, primarily in cold weather states like Rhode Island and Connecticut. And it's a cruel twist that my colleagues have decided to target cold weather states right after many parts of the country faced record-breaking cold and incredibly high heating costs. According to the previous estimates of this policy, the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office said that about 850,000 households would see their benefits cut by an average of about $90 a month. Of course, many of the households affected by this cut will be low-income seniors, veterans, people with disabilities, children, and the working poor. In total, this cut impacts 1.7 million people struggling to put food on the table, and it imposes all of these cuts on only those families living in 16 states. Now, the same people that are proposing these cuts in nutrition programs are more than happy to provide agricultural companies with extremely generous subsidies to purchase crop insurance. They're happy to spend $40 billion over the next 10 years on commodity programs. They're happy to undermine payment reforms like limits on total commodity payments for personnel, reforms that were approved and voted on by the full House last June and that could result in even higher subsidies for the wealthiest farmers. In fact, one of the architects of this bill has tried to make the case for maintaining certain agricultural subsidies by saying, and I quote, "the safety net still has to exist," end quote. Apparently, to protect the safety net for the wealthiest farmers, children and families in 16 states will be forced to struggle even harder to put food on the table. It's a sad day in this country when the safety net for wealthy farmers is more important than the safety net for hungry families. I thank the gentlelady for all of the work that she's done and for the information she just shared about how effective and important this program is. And I just want to end with two quotes from important religious groups who have spoken to this issue that I hope my colleagues will hear and rethink this decision and reject this proposal and speak to our values as a country. The National Association of Evangelicals said, and I quote, urged us, as you determine the policies and appropriations for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, please maintain this vital program at or near its current level of funding and refrain from enacting policies that could damage our most vulnerable citizens, end quote. And the U.S. Catholic bishop said, and I quote, how the House chooses to address our nation's hunger and nutrition programs will have profound human and moral consequences, end quote. And I hope we will all hear those words and do what is right for families, will speak to our values as a country, and protect those most in need from any additional cuts that will adversely impact their families and their ability to feed themselves. I thank the gentlelady for yielding, and I yield back.
I can't thank the gentleman enough for your eloquence and what clarity you brought to the discussion around the connection between the low-income energy assistance program and the food stamp program, and take it out of the realm of what people are trying to do is to demean it and talk about it as a scheme or a loophole, none of which is true. We can talk about some schemes and some loopholes in this bill, but they don't apply where it has to do with the food stamp beneficiaries. And I just want to pick up on the point that you made about the safety net. You know, the Farm Bill, and I had the opportunity to work in 2008 on the Farm Bill, and particularly the nutrition piece. The Farm Bill has always been a safety net for farmers and for those who are the beneficiaries of the nutrition programs. That's what the link that was established, so that it was the benefits would go nationwide, not to a particular region of the country, not to a particular population, but a safety net so that we could make sure that people in bad times, in difficult times, could be able to sustain themselves. That is what's been broken apart here with this Farm Bill. And so that the point is that where the Farm Bill conferees will say that they're cutting back on these payments to farmers, what they have done is to create a series of other programs where these folks can make themselves whole through crop insurance, through putting more farm managers on the land, and no restrictions as to how many you can put at $125,000 a pop. So they found ways in terms of which they make these folks whole. The only beneficiaries in the Farm Bill who have no place to go when you cut back on that $90 a month are the food stamp recipients. So you have yanked the safety net away from them, and you've done it to benefit the wealthiest farm interests in the nation. It is wrong, and that bipartisan support we had in the past for a safety net is what created strength And I'm sad to tell you that that has been rent asunder, and we cannot let that happen. I'm going to encourage my colleagues, and I know you will, that we will defeat this effort to leave people without sustenance in this nation. I thank the gentleman for participating tonight. Thank you.
Pursuant to Clause 12A of Rule 1, the House will stand in recess, subject to the call of the Chair.
And the House gaveling out, members returning tomorrow at 10 a.m.